the world called him weak. His own family called him a burden. And the night threw him alone into the desert. But deep in that desert, a wounded lion was lying in the sand, waiting, as if it had always known he would come. It was the last hour of the night. A young man moved along a dirt road, each step heavier than the last, yet stopping was not a choice he could afford. Behind him, a door had just shut. Not gently, not with regret. It had slammed with the finality of a verdict. Do not come back. He kept walking. Silence owned both sides of that road. A dog barked somewhere far away. A thin thread of lamplight leaked under a distant door. But not a single door opened for him. Not a single voice called his name. He existed in this world, but this world had made it perfectly clear he did not belong to it. That feeling was not new to him. That feeling was years old. He was an orphan. And being an orphan is not simply the absence of a mother and father. Being an orphan is the name of a look, the look that falls on you and, without a single word spoken, tells you everything. Asterisk, you are a burden here. You are an outsider here. You are merely being tolerated. Asterisk, he had known that look since childhood. After losing both his parents, he had been brought to the home of distant relatives. Brought by neighbors, because no one had actually sent for him. In the beginning, something small and stubborn lived inside him. A hope. Asterisk, maybe someone here will be mine. Maybe someone will ask if I've eaten. Maybe someone will say, come, this is your home too. Asterisk. But hope is fragile. And in that house, hope found no room to breathe. Every waking hour belonged to work. Only work. Never rest. Rise before dawn, take out the livestock, go to the fields, bring firewood, fill the water. The list had no end, and not once, not even once, did a single word of gratitude come. In winter, there was no blanket. Hunger was simply ordinary. In the evenings he watched the family laughing together around the dinner cloth, while he waited outside in the cold. If there were leftovers, fine. If not, that was fine too. No one ever asked which it had been. And if an animal went missing, if a task was left undone, if anything at all went sideways, the blame landed on him. Instantly. Without question. Because the weak have no right to defend themselves. The weak are simply meant to be guilty. And yet, through all of it, hatred never found its way into his heart. That was not weakness. That was the greatest strength he possessed. A strength he himself had not yet discovered. Among animals he found something close to peace. He would talk to the livestock, sit for hours beside a sick creature, give it water, feed it by hand. In their eyes he saw his own reflection, voiceless, without shelter, but soft at heart. He had no idea that this very softness was quietly arranging his entire future. Then came the evening that broke everything open. The house had felt wrong since morning. A wrongness you can feel in the air before anyone speaks. The woman of the house kept opening and closing a large wooden chest, her hands never still, her face drained of color. There were whispered conversations that died the instant he entered a room. Everyone knew something, but no one was saying it in front of him. And that kind of silence, the silence where people don't speak but judge everything with their eyes, that is the most suffocating silence of all. At midday, he was called into the room. Money from the chest was missing. When he walked in, they were all already seated. Positioned, not gathered. The way people arrange themselves when the verdict has already been written and the accused is simply brought in last. Eyes were on him before he crossed the threshold. Not questioning eyes. Deciding eyes. He opened his mouth to speak. No one wanted to hear it. One of them threw out a sharp, cutting remark, the kind that doesn't miss. Another laughed. That laugh, careless, cold, completely unbothered, entered his chest like a splinter and stayed there. He swore his innocence. He reminded them. He begged to be heard first. But when the weak are accused, no one hungers for the truth. No one searched. No other possibility was even considered. Because the verdict had already been reached. What was happening now was simply the announcement. As evening fell, the anger in that room grew teeth. Words sharpened into weapons. He tried once more, one final attempt, to defend himself. But before the sentence was finished, the man of the house stepped forward and grabbed him by the collar. The eyes looking back at him held no mercy. Only a rage that does not see another person's pain, that only knows how to release itself. The front door opened. He was pushed outside. The door closed. He stood in the lane. Cold night. Thin clothes. And inside his chest, that feeling which has no name. Not anger. Not tears. Just a deep, hollow space that grows suddenly, silently, unbearably large. He began to walk. The cold bit through him on that dirt road. The paths ran out one by one. The village shrank and then disappeared behind him. His feet moved on their own, as if somewhere needed to be reached, but where, he could not say. And then ahead of him, stretching in every direction, only sand. The desert. No one for miles. No sound. No light. Nothing but the whisper of the dunes and the cold, indifferent silence of the stars. He sat down beside a sandy ridge. He wrapped his own arms around himself, not because of the cold, but because there was no one else. For the first time in his life, he felt that particular fear, the one where even the distinction between warmth and cold stops mattering. The fear that asks the question no one wants to ask. Asterisk, if I disappeared here forever, would anyone know? Would anyone ask? Would I simply die here, quietly, without a name? Would anyone care? And in that exact moment, as the question sank its roots into his chest and the cold reached all the way through him, a voice came from somewhere far away, blurred at the edges, but unmistakable. Stay merciful. Mercy is never wasted. His mother. He looked up at the cold sky and almost smiled. When the world is this merciless, he thought, how is it even possible to stay merciful? But he held onto those words tightly, the way a drowning man grips a loose plank, knowing it is just a plank, not a boat, knowing it may not save him, but refusing to let go all the same. He rose, slowly, and walked deeper into the dark.
To enjoy more emotional and inspiring stories every week, like this video and subscribe this channel.
The night thickened. His steps had begun to stagger, hunger and thirst and exhaustion grinding him down with every stride. But stopping meant never rising again. So he kept moving. Then, without warning, a sound tore through the silence. Deep, trembling, soaked through with pain. He froze. His heart lurched into his throat. The sound was coming from behind a cluster of rocks. Close, terrifyingly close. Every instinct told him to find shelter, find a way around, put distance between himself and whatever was making that sound. But his feet did not go backward. They went forward. Why? He could not have explained it. Perhaps because he had spent his whole life surrounded by pain, and something in him recognized its voice. The moonlight lay scattered across the sand like broken silver. And then he saw it. A shape in the sand, enormous, still. For a moment he couldn't make sense of what he was looking at. Then the moonlight fell fully across it, and his breath simply stopped. A lion. Wounded. Lying in the desert sand. The arrow was buried deep in its haunch. Its body was heavy with suffering. Its breathing came in slow, labored waves. Its eyes were half closed, until the sound of his footsteps reached it. Then they snapped open, and the roar that followed shook the desert itself. It bounced off the rocks, rolled across the dunes, and nailed the young man's feet to the ground as surely as iron. Every rational thought said the same thing. Run. He did not run, because in those eyes, those blazing, terrifying, magnificent eyes, he did not see what other people would have seen. He did not see a predator. He did not see death. He saw himself. That same bottomless loneliness. That same helplessness. That same pain that never makes it to the tongue, but can never truly hide behind the eyes either. He moved forward, slowly, both hands raised, open, visible, empty. I am not a threat. I am not your enemy. His heart hammered with every step. Sweat broke across his forehead despite the cold. The lion roared again, but did not try to rise. There was simply nothing left in the body to rise with. Step by step, until the lion's warm breath was touching his hand. He reached toward the arrow, paused. Something inside him made one last argument. You were not sent here. This is not your responsibility. But he gathered every last fragment of his courage, gripped the shaft, and pulled. The roar that erupted shook the entire valley. He was thrown backward and hit the ground hard. Certain, absolutely certain, that these were his final seconds. He squeezed his eyes shut. No attack came. 1 second. 2. He opened his eyes. The lion was shaking with pain, but had not moved toward him. He got up, tore a strip from his own shirt, and wrapped it firmly around the wound. The same motion, the same care he had given to injured animals his entire life. Then he brought his water pouch to the lion's mouth and tilted it, his last water. Every drop of it. The lion drank, then drew one long, shuddering breath, and closed its eyes, not in pain this time, in peace. The young man stayed. Long after he should have left, he stayed. Then, slowly, one careful step at a time, he backed away into the darkness, not sure whether he had just cheated death, or whether he had just taken the first step toward something he couldn't yet name. After that night, a new chapter began. But new does not mean easy. Surviving the desert had to be learned, and the desert is a brutal teacher. The first day, hunger broke him. Thirst shook him to the bone. The night terrified him. He searched for shelter, gathered wood, hunted for wild roots and desert fruit. There were nights he found nothing at all and simply lay with his head on a stone, staring up at the sky, the same question circling his chest over and over. How long can a person live like this? But every morning came, and every morning he got up. A week passed, then 2. Slowly, the desert stopped feeling like an enemy and started feeling like a language he was finally learning to read. The direction of the wind, the way sand shifts over hidden water, the particular silence that arrives just before danger. He learned, and the desert taught him. Like two strangers who have both been alone for a long time, recognizing something familiar in each other. Then one morning, crouching at a water source, he felt it, the unmistakable sense of being watched. He turned. On the rock above him sat the lion. The wound had healed. The body was strong and full again. The eyes were calm, the deep, still calm of something that has been to the edge and come back. The young man took one cautious step backward. The lion did not move. It simply watched. He held his ground and looked into those eyes. There was no threat there, only a quiet, wordless recognition. I know you. You know me. They stayed like that, man on the ground, lion on the rock, for a long moment that neither of them broke. No one witnessed the agreement made in that silence. No words were spoken, no promises exchanged. But what was settled between them in those few minutes was as solid and permanent as the stone the lion sat upon. A few days later, returning with firewood, he spotted movement across the sand. A small caravan. A handful of travelers, a few pack animals, several guards. Ordinary. Unhurried. A routine desert crossing. Then, from behind the dunes they came. Weapons caught the light. Screams tore through the air. Dust exploded upward. Bandits, organized, fast, and ruthless. Within moments the caravan was surrounded. Travelers scrambled to flee, but every exit was already sealed. The guards fought back but were vastly outnumbered. He watched from behind a rock, firewood in his arms. What could he do? Nothing. He was alone, unarmed, powerless. Just a young man with sticks in his hands watching a war he had no part in. But he didn't need to do anything. From somewhere behind the rocks, a roar erupted, so vast, so deep, so thunderous that it seemed to crack the sky open. The sand itself shuddered. Across the valley, the grip of every bandit on every weapon went suddenly, inexplicably slack. and then the lion came through the rocks. His body caught the light like something forged rather than born. His eyes were blazing. His speed was beyond anything human. He struck. One bandit went down, and the rest simply ran. They ran like men who have just remembered that they are mortal. Their footsteps pounded through the desert and faded, and then even that sound was gone. The caravan travelers had stopped breathing entirely. The lion walked slowly back toward the young man and stopped. Then, unhurried, deliberate, he lowered his great head, as if in recognition, as if to say, "Here I am." The young man reached out and placed his hand on the lion's head. The lion closed his eyes. From that day, the lion never left. Wherever he went, the lion was near. Sometimes walking alongside him. Sometimes keeping watch from a high rock in the distance. Sometimes, on the coldest nights, coming to lie beside him. Close enough that the young man woke warmer than he had any right to be. This kind of companionship was something entirely new to him. Someone who is here for me, not because they owe me something, not to remind me of a debt, not because they want anything in return. The lion gave him what no human ever had: honest, unconditional presence. Word began to travel through the nearby settlements. First in whispers, then openly. There is a man living in the desert. A lion is his companion. The caravans the bandits failed to rob, they saw it with their own eyes. People started coming to see for themselves. Some wanted to speak with him. Others simply needed to know, is it real? It was real. And the story traveled far. Even to the household from which he had been thrown into the cold. One morning he was near the rocks, going about his day, when he felt it, footsteps approaching. He turned, and time stopped. They were standing there, the people from that house. The man who had grabbed his collar and shut the door stood at the front. Behind him, the others, the ones whose laughter had lodged itself in his chest and never quite left. Fear was on their faces. The lion was reason enough for that. But underneath the fear, impossible to conceal, was something else. Shame. The particular shame of people who know exactly what they did and can no longer pretend otherwise. The young man stood straight, head high. In his eyes, a stillness that only comes after years of surviving pain. The stillness of someone who reached the very edge of breaking and grew back together from the pieces. Beside him, the lion sat without a sound. No growl, no movement. Just those calm, sharp eyes reading the newcomers with perfect patience. His presence needed no words. It said everything. This one is under my protection. The man stepped forward. His steps were heavy. His trembling hands were saying everything his mouth was struggling to form. Those behind him began to speak, voices unsteady, justifications crumbling as they left their lips. Circumstances were difficult. The times were hard. We didn't understand. But with every sentence, the words grew weaker, hollower, smaller. Until finally, the man stopped. A long silence settled over the desert. Then he said it. That it was wrong. That the accusation had been false. That an innocent person had been made to suffer. That they wanted him to come back. The young man listened to every word without speaking. In his heart, no anger, no desire for revenge. He had come to understand something the desert had taught him slowly, over many mornings. Revenge chains you to the very bitterness you are desperate to escape. And mercy, real mercy, is the only force in this world that breaks every chain. After a long silence, with the smallest, quietest smile, he said, "If it is any comfort to you, it is not in my power to hate you. Allah does not abandon the wronged, no matter how long the night runs." They left, quietly, by the same road they had come. He stood and watched until the desert swallowed them around a bend in the dunes. Then the lion came and sat beside him without being called. He placed his hand on the lion's neck and spoke, not to anyone who could hear, but because some things need to be said regardless. If your door has been shut on you tonight, if someone you trusted has turned away, if your road has disappeared into the sand and you cannot find where it goes, Do not be afraid. Allah leaves no one homeless. No mercy is ever wasted. Just stay merciful and leave the rest to him. Sometimes he sends help through people, and sometimes, just sometimes, he sends a lion.
If you like this video, please do like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more inspiring English moral stories. See you in the next video. Till then, take care and bye-bye.